Welcome to Take the Lead. My name is Muriel Boettger. I'm a psychologist specialized in the subdiscipline of positive psychology. Within the Take the Lead series, we focus on how to take the lead in your career or with your team. With me throughout, I have the wonderful Saleha Williams, one of the UK's top 100 technology leaders driving change in the technology business world. We are going to share with you how, by training your brain, you can take the lead in your career or lead your teams in business. Welcome to Take the Lead. My name is Muriel Boettger, and many of you will know me from my Share and Grow podcast about positive psychology. In this series, Take the Lead, we specifically focused on how you can take the lead in your own career, and also, if you are entering a senior role, how to take the lead with your team or company. In our first podcast, we explore the secret to building a successful career and building and leading successful teams in the technology business world. So I'm very happy to have Saleha Williams with me today, who many of you will know from our previous episode on Share and Grow. Saleha, welcome.
Thank you so much.
Saleha, you have an extensive and very successful career spanning over 20 years in the media technology industry. You've lived and worked in London, New York, Paris, LA, Mumbai, Munich, Singapore, Amsterdam, and even Barbados, working for some of the world's leading brands, including the London 2012 Olympics, and you've also ran your own very successful global digital business. You've recently completed the International Masters in Applied Positive Psychology in Cambridge and Paris. And if that wasn't enough, the Financial Times have named you in the UK's top 100 technology BAME leaders, a leader driving change in the tech world. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So tell me about your current role as a director of Google Consultancy and Services EMEA at Acceleration.
Okay, so Acceleration are part of Wunderman Thompson, a creative data and technology agency, part of the WPP group. And Acceleration are a specialist consultancy that craft digital marketing capability for some of the world's largest global brands. So we are passionate about creating a better world for our clients and their consumers through transforming their marketing organizations and marketing efforts. And as director of Google Consulting and Services EMEA, I lead a fantastic team who look at how to blend brilliant creative, the lifeblood of Wunderman Thompson, with Google technologies. So that's Google Marketing Platform and Google Cloud Platform. So really we're talking about data and how we work with both CMOs and CIOs using data as the engine of their business to drive growth and to deliver outstanding customer experiences and how they then engage and retain their key audiences.
Great job on top of your extensive and very successful career. So what is your secret to building a successful career and leading successful teams, which in turn have helped build your career?
Okay, so the secret is, there is no secret. It is about hard work, discipline, and resilience. So it's really around focus. It's about doing what you've said you will do. And in other words, making sure you deliver. It's about the people and the relationships. So choosing great people around you, who you work for, who you work with, who you work in your teams, etc. And certainly for me, it's about having a continuously learning growth mindset. So, research shows that as humans, as individuals, our life choices and our career choices are made up of 40% is sort of based on our genetics. So that's kind of pretty much there. But 40%, another 40% is around influence. It's what you can influence, you as an individual, the choices you make, the things you decide to do. And then around 20% is luck or chance. So what we have learned is that at least 40% of building a successful career or building successful teams, we as individuals, as humans, can definitely influence. And things like brain scanning techniques, fMRI, we can actually show how we activate our brains in terms of our decision making, goal setting, engagement, attention, even confidence and self-belief. All of these we can affect and activate through our lives and our choices and our decisions, including our career. So as leaders, we can then also influence our teams and our talent and our people and elevate them as individuals as well as collectively as a group to be the very best they can be, so that they feel deeply engaged, deeply motivated, successful and confident. So the secret is there is no secret. It is around focus, hard work, resilience, but knowing that we can influence that, and that is proven in terms of brains and how our brains work, and putting that focus and energy behind it so that you can move that forward for you on an individual level or with your teams and your talents.
That's amazing. So it's about putting effort into training our brains. So how do we train our brain or change our brains to drive our career or build great teams?
So for me, based on my career in the business technology world, I wanted to combine that with real business experience, but then the positive psychology, understanding the neuroscience of how we can change our brains. And for me, that's around having a positive mindset and a positive leadership style. And so I've taken everything I've learned in business, and the cultural differences and global companies I've worked with in many different places, so not just from the UK or the US, blended that with the science of positive psychology, specifically neuroscience, to look at how we can increase motivation, engagement, build confidence, empower and elevate ourselves as individuals and our teams.
Very interesting. So how does one get a positive mindset or builds up a positive leadership style?
So I framed them around something I call the 4 Ps, to keep it very simple and very, not too crazy scientific, just very simply the 4 Ps. And the 4 Ps are passion, precision, productivity, and people. And I have used this myself extensively throughout my own career development, and it's something I use with my teams and have used globally with teams and talent all over the world.
That's great because it's so simple to keep in mind. So let's go into this deeper. What did you do to get to where you are today, and how did you find your passion?
Well, I think I was very lucky because I knew that I always wanted to work in technology and media and marketing. And that was something right from being at school. So I loved computer science at school and I was fascinated by the media. So while I was still at school, I went to take a Saturday job at my local newspaper and I became what was called a runner. And a runner was literally, in those days, somebody who physically ran between departments. So you would run from what was then the sports desk on a Saturday afternoon that had all the football results. And as they were coming in, my job was to run them then to the departments that would create all the copy, which would then go into copper plating onto these huge presses on which they would then publish and print all of the results that go into the paper. So I knew that the media world and the marketing world was where I wanted to be. And the start of that was, get into the local newspaper. But ultimately, the ultimate sort of goal for me at that time was to work for the BBC. And at 15 years old, that was my goal. How do I build a career that gets me to the BBC?
Okay, so very clarified at a very young age. So how did you make that happen then?
Well, I think it's about, again, this positive mindset, but we didn't know it was called that then. This is something that has become newer in terms of psychology and positive psychology in recent years. But, it's putting time and energy into thinking about what you want. You don't just come up with it one day and go, that's what I'm going to do. Or maybe you do, and maybe you're lucky enough that it just happens like that. But it's about having a real focus of putting time and effort into what do I want to do. And then when I have an idea of what that is, what is the plan? And I made a plan that was, okay, I need to work for the local newspaper. From the local newspaper, I can get to London. I need to do this kind of education. These are the courses, the degrees, etc. And it's building that plan, activating that plan, and constantly reviewing it and putting energy and measurement behind that, so that at every stage you know that you're building towards what that career goal is. And I basically did whatever I needed to do to make that happen, which made sure I had the right education, the right people around me, the right mentors, the right sort of influences behind me, and put all of that together to drive that forward.
Amazing. So how old were you then when you took this plan?
I was 14.
You were 14 years. Listening to you to come up with that as a such young age, people listening might be forgiven for thinking you had great support in your education, someone helping you make this plan happen. But nothing could be further from the truth, could it?
No. And I think actually it's very important to say this, because I didn't have an easy start to my education and my career in that respect. I was born in England, but I was put into the English social system when I was a baby. And so I was in foster care, etc. And at 15, 16, I actually ran away from the home that I was in. So I didn't have a sort of seamless start into, here's your education plan, here's the degree you should do, here's the university you should go, and the support and people around that. But what I did was I put this plan together, and in the beginning, I worked as a waitress by night so that at 16 I could continue my education in the day. And then I started to get temporary jobs in media, until I could get a full-time media job. And then I switched my studies around, so I had my full-time job in media, and I started working with News International, so the company that publishes the Times, the Sunday Times, etc. And I continued at night school with my education.
What age was that?
So that would have been at 16.
Okay.
So it was being very clear around the education is very important, but I have to find what that is. But I have to power that. And at the same time, I have to physically look after myself and be able to pay to live, because I didn't have that support system around me at that age.
That's stunning. What do you think was underlying that determination, that drive? Where did that career focus come from at such a young age?
Well, first of all, thank you. Thank you for saying that. But I think for me it was about resilience. And I've always been fascinated by resilience. Sometimes that can come very naturally to people, but we now know you can build on that. So it isn't about everybody needs to have a plan at 14 and off they go and do it. But you do need to have that focus and that resilience. And so for me, I knew what I wanted to do. I put the plan together. And when I look back on that now, it was based around what I now call the 4 Ps. My passion, what I wanted to be doing, the precision of the planning and how to make that happen, the productivity, so being very focused around how and when you do what, and the people. And wrapping that up in a positive mindset of saying, this is what I want to do, and I'm going to go and do it. I'm not going to let anyone say no. I am not going to just take, what's given to me. I'm going to go out and build the career that I want and the life that I want. And I think that goes back to, understanding now the science of positive psychology is around optimum human functioning. So how do we train our brains to reframe, rethink, and positively, actively build that confidence, build that resilience, increase our focus, and then measure and use our energy to drive that forward and create the neuro pathways which power the neurons across our nervous system to actually make that happen on a psychological level, as well as your energy on a sort of physiological level. So, we know, for example, now that there are 86 billion neurons in the brain. And these are specialist signals that the brain is using to communicate with each other. So how do we get these together to activate the different parts of our brain to drive forward thinking, planning, focus, attention, etc., so that you can then look at specific tasks?
That's amazing. So many... I think when you talk, it's amazing how many knowledge you put in there from the psychology perspective, but also from the business world perspective and from the hardworking perspective, because we know now that you work very hard to reach that point of your career. So this then, what you just said about the neurons in your brain can be also applied to leaders and teams too.
Absolutely. And I think this is one of the reasons that I did the positive psychology master's degree, because I wanted to understand more about this as individuals, but also I specialize then in how we do that within teams and change management within businesses to drive change and get people, teams to activate and basically be the best they can be, the best performance they can be. And really that comes down to, on a human individual level, how do we flourish? How do we thrive as individuals? And how do you then put that into a team dynamic or within a client or an organization where you really want to change things? That's where the leadership aspect of how can you drive change that is real and is ongoing and continuous by using psychology, positive psychology, but based around that business technology side, in a real business environment. So for me, it's around how do you build a team that is really dynamic, really powerful, where every individual is engaged. And it's, I look at F1, for example, and F1 to me, I've always been fascinated by, because when you see them, it isn't just the driver. When you see the teams that are behind that, they are so focused on what they're doing. They're clearly very passionate about it, but everyone knows exactly what they're doing. And when they come together, it is so dynamic and so powerful. And if you can get to that level with your teams, where your teams feel on an individual level really motivated and powerful and engaged, when you put that into a collective team environment, you're just able to look at outstanding results.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing, Saleha. I'm so excited to talk about this more. So please join us for our next podcast in the Take the Lead, where we go into detail around the first P, the passion, and how to find it, how to keep it, reveal it, and use it to take the lead in your career and in your teams. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.